have a secret to share with you.
Come closer, child.
Do you think that's what the Night's King sounds like?
I mean, we've never heard him talk.
I think that's what he sounds like. It is I.
Hello, child.
Hello, child.
Come closer.
Let me whisper sweet nothings within your icy ear.
Let me whisper with my icy breath sweet nothings into your ear. Yeah, I think that's
what
right.
he sounds like.
I think we figured it out.
I think so. Mystery solved. Game of Thrones over.
Box check.
Starting off the show strong. Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to You Got, a Game of Thrones podcast. My name is Carly.
And my name is Sophia.
And we are gathered here today. I almost said dearly beloved. That is for weddings. And this is not a wedding, this is a eulogy, unless we're talking about a wedding of feelings. Because we have lost, horrifically, one of the most beautiful creatures in the entire fictional existence of the world.
I mean, I could not have said it better myself. Yes.
You definitely could have said it better yourself. Because I am in deep mourning.
You are, and I really can only think of you after viewing this week's episode of Game of Thrones, Season 7, Episode 6, Beyond the Wall, in which lots happened, but definitely I think the takeaway was the loss of Viserion, the dragon.
Raise a glass.
Yeah, raise a glass.
Raise a glass.
Viserion.
We just cheers, but these are plastic cups, so you couldn't hear it.
Classy ladies.
Mm-hmm. If nothing else, we are nothing but not classy. You know, I don't know what that meant.
We're drinking rosé and grapefruit juice out of plastic cups. I really think there's nothing more to be said about how we felt about this episode than that.
That's it.
You can take what you want from it, really, but that really sums up how I feel.
That's the Cliff Notes. That is the Spark Notes for you.
TLDR.
A lot happened in this episode, and we're gonna get into it later because while a lot happened, I don't know if it was pulled off maybe as well as it could have been, or if it had like that really Game of Thronesy vibe that we've kind of felt like was missing this past season. But yeah, there's a lot to dig into.
There is a lot to unpack, and I will agree with you that I think a lot of this episode was executed very well, and a lot of this episode was executed extremely poorly, and it sort of just expected us as viewers to believe whatever they throw at us.
Right.
And not question it. There were a lot of Deus Ex Machina moments. There were a lot of moments where I was just verklempt with what was going on and didn't quite know how to react. I stood for a lot of the episode.
Yes, that's true. I was there to see it, and she was either standing or on the floor.
Yeah, really. There was not a time where I was sitting on the couch.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you stand or you fall. There is no middle
collapse.
ground.
I did collapse at one point. It was very emotional for me. We drank some wine.
There was wine involved.
But when you play the Game of Thrones, you
whine or you cry.
Or you cry.
There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Tagline.
So yes, this episode, I think my main problem with this episode was it was underdeveloped as far as the rest of the season goes. Actually, as far as season 7 goes, it sort of feels like, in comparison to the rest of the seasons of this show, this season feels the most Hollywoodized, and it feels the most underdeveloped in terms of plot and in terms of character arc.
Amen to that. That is so true. And I'll also say that one of my problems with the episode, and sorry to start off negatively about it, but like we really want to dive into the episode, so I think like let's just get these little qualms, shave them off right out of the way, right out of the gate. My biggest problem is that this episode felt almost like it was trying to reboot what we had already seen, which the show's done, but here's my kind of take on it, is like, we've been beyond the wall. Like, we've been beyond the wall. We saw what happened at Hardhome. We know about all that. And when everybody was beyond the wall in this episode, it more or less felt like this is the first time we'd ever seen it. And it was like, no, we've seen this.
You've witnessed the calamity that the Night's King brings about every time he shows up.
Yeah, like, this is not our first time seeing the White Walkers
Ain't
or
our
the
first
Night's
rodeo.
King. It is not our first ice rodeo, for sure. So that's my biggest problem, is it almost felt like they were trying to go, okay, we're doing our own Hollywood season now. Let's totally reimagine Beyond the Wall. And, like, oh my God, it's such a new experience. It's not, though. Like, so give us something different, I guess.
Yeah, I would argue that this episode, more than any other episode of Game of Thrones that I've ever sat through, felt like a movie.
It did.
I knew what was gonna happen the whole time, and in the Battle of the Bastards, like that sort of happened that way. But
Yeah.
you know, there was that part where Jon like fell under when Sansa
Yes.
showed up with the Eyrie. All that stuff I thought was really, really well done. In this episode, I knew that Jon was gonna get rescued.
Yup.
That Dany was gonna show up, and that one of the dragons was gonna die.
There were no stakes.
There were no, well, the stakes are the dragons, clearly, but
But even then, we kind of figured it out. I mean,
we
like...
knew.
We knew.
My fears that all of these characters that I loved were gonna die, none of them died.
Which is ridiculous to me. Like, as much as I didn't want, like, Tormund to die, at least it would have been a risk that the show was taking. Like, that's why you watch Game of Thrones, to watch all your favorite people that you love
Get murdered.
get murdered in horrific ways. Like, that is why you watch it. And that hasn't... there's been an extreme lack of surprising...
And that would be one thing if that's what they had decided to do from the beginning of this show.
But it wasn't.
But it wasn't. They have always been a shock and awe show. So don't give me the shock and then...
Well, shock and awe, yes, but shock and awe that has, like, a purpose. It's not just there for, like, the sake of being surprising or, like, oh my God, like, I mean... I would argue that, like, this episode had a lot of shock and awe, or, like, anytime Dany rides Drogon, it's shock and awe.
Yeah.
But this just had no... They didn't take any risks. And
They didn't.
Yeah.
They killed off arguably the most underdeveloped character. Well, Jon sent away the most underdeveloped character by sending Gendry running.
Yeah, and they said, you're the fastest. How do they know that?
Well, arguably that makes sense. He's the youngest. He probably has the best cardiovascular system. I wouldn't have argued it, but he is the most underdeveloped character. Yes. Then they kill off Thoros of Myr, who is the second most underdeveloped character, and who not everybody really cares about.
He was a red shirt.
He was a red shirt, as were the rest of the Brotherhood without banners that went. We knew every single one of those people was going to die, and Thoros is the one that won our poll.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
good job, everybody who voted.
I really
on
hope you hadn't watched the episode and cheated.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed you didn't do that. And even if you did, I mean, whatever. There's nothing we can do about it.
Damn it, Spain.
I voted for Jorah, so I'm just glad he didn't die. But to actually dive into the episode, it starts off with the credits, as it always does.
Yes.
And then it starts actually at Dragonstone, panning over Dany's table to a fire, and then immediately cuts to the Avengers crossing over the frozen tundra of north of the Wall. And I just wonder, was that an accident? Did they mean to put that, like, quick little shot over Dany's, like, war table in? It felt very jarring, and I don't quite know why it was in there, and it felt like an accident, and I don't really want to pick it apart, but I find it very strange that that's how the episode started.
It felt like there was somebody new on, like, the camera crew, and they were like, God, but, like, we're throwing away this scene, but this shot is gorgeous. Like, I feel this shot.
It's so deep. And pan. Look at the pan on that.
Look at that. Look at that slight fuzzy background. God. It's like you turn the sharpen feature on Instagram right on up.
It doesn't even go to anything. It just, like, goes to the fire and then cuts. Like, the fire doesn't even do anything. There's no one sitting there. There's not any...
It wasn't even something cheesy like, oh, on the map they actually, like, zoomed it up onto the wall.
Right, or like Daenerys was standing staring into the fire.
Right.
Nothing like that.
No, they just liked the shot, I think, and didn't want to, kill your darlings. Guys, kill your darlings a little bit.
So then it jumps to Beyond the Wall, where the team is basically making fun of Gendry the whole time, and how he really hasn't lived. They try and get him drunk. Tormund jokes about how you keep warm north of the wall. By banging bears, most likely.
For sure.
It's a sitcom.
It's a sitcom, which, like, the one thing I'll say about that is, like, before the end, we learned, like, oh, this actually isn't going to take any risks or surprises in any way. I was scared. Anytime there was, like, a light and happy moment, I was like, I am not okay with this. Like, something horrible is about to happen. I am feeling so not okay. Because, like, anytime there's a light moment in Game of Thrones, you know that, that's going to end. Like,
the light at the end of the tunnel is a train.
Exactly.
Always.
Yeah.
Always with happy scenes
and
in Game of
you're
Thrones.
wearing headphones and cannot hear it coming. Like,
yeah.
That's how it is. So, like, that was okay, but then there were no risks taken. And then I was like, well, now it just seems like a sitcom, yeah.
I almost appreciated these like, little couple of scenes where it's just, like, the characters sort of getting to know each other and talking.
Yeah.
I really, like, there were a few important notes, like, points of information and points of talking points that the characters had, that, like, duos of characters had. And one that I really appreciated was Tormund reminding Jon that Mance Rayder died because he refused to bend the knee to Stannis Baratheon, and then how many wildlings died because Mance Rayder refused. And he sort of is, like, slapping Jon on the wrist a little bit, like, hey, Dany's not asking you to do anything crazy. She's just asking you to bend the knee. Like, we'd rather not have you dead and have everybody out. Because if you die, who's gonna trust the wildlings?
No, that's definitely true. And one thing I will say, too, about Jon refusing to bend the knee, I get it, but at the same time, like, if he... It almost doesn't make sense with this character because he's so focused on the real war, between everybody and the Night's King. Why does he care at the end of the day if he's bending the knee or if he's Lord of Winterfell? Like, that seemed like a weird plot point that was kind of stubborn
that he constantly
for the sake of
refused to bend the knee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would argue, I mean, if he sees the bigger picture, if he's arguing that he sees what's really coming and that the Seven Kingdoms don't matter,
right,
it would make sense that he bends the knee, and maybe that's why he does at the end of the episode. He definitely sees first of all, what Daenerys is capable of, but secondly, that this is bigger than Westeros,
Exactly.
And maybe that's why he does end up bending the knee at the end of the episode. But and maybe it also helps that Tormund does remind him, hey,
yes,
look, like, history cannot repeat itself, man. Once again, you have this theme coming through. Even with the characters talking about it,
Yeah.
Tormund is literally saying, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot.
Yeah,
don't
and
get us killed.
I would trust Tormund with that. I mean,
Me too, man.
He's a little voice of reason, and you just love him.
Amen. I loved his conversation with the Hound about Brienne of Tarth.
You mean his new bestest friend in this entire world?
I love that he looked at the Hound and said, I can torture you. Like the little smile that he does after the Hound walks away for the first time. He's like, woohoo, I'm going to torture this guy. Like,
I love it so much. He's like my ginger Santa.
He is. And I liked that the Hound goes, how did you survive this long? And then Tormund goes, I'm good at killing. And it's just, you expect it from a guy that looks like Tormund, but then his personality is so unexpected. How he wants to make babies with Brienne.
Oh yeah, he was like speaking sweet little poetry nothings about her. My favorite is when he goes, I seen the way she looks at me, and then you look at pictures of her and she's like, oh.
She wants to kill you. Yeah, the Hound is like, yeah, like she wants to kill you, and he goes, so you've met her. And
oh my god, what
Brienne.
A little romantic.
I can't wait till she, she's about to meet up with Jaime, so maybe not, but a girl can dream. A girl can dream.
We'll see what happens.
There's a lot of ships that I don't think will take off that I'm captain of, so it's fine.
You remember the old Greyjoy fleet? That wasn't the Greyjoys anymore? Release the Kraken.
So another interesting sort of little comment that happens is Jon tries to give Longclaw back to Jorah.
Can I?
Yeah, what?
Can I talk about that for a second?
Yes, please.
What the hell? I'm sorry. This is what that scene was like. This scene was like when you have that friend who's like, we have to go out. We have to go to the bars. We need to go. Listen. We need to go to the bars. And you're like, fine, we'll go to the bars. We'll go to the bars. And you get to the bars and you get there and you're like, you're the one who brought us here. You're the one who knows where we're going. What do you want to do? And they look at you and they go, we don't have to go out if you don't want. That's what it was like to me. It's just like he brought everybody out there and he was like, we're doing this. Like, trust me. I got this, you guys. I got this. I fought them before. I know what I'm doing. Follow me. And then when they get out there and he goes, the sword that kills White Walkers? you should take it. I was like, don't give away your weapon. You're the one who's fought these guys.
Yeah.
Do not give away your weapon that can kill these things. That's the dumbest thing. And then he looked at everybody with his always concerned face, which is never what you want to see.
It's the puppy eyes.
You can't, oh God. So that's my rant.
He's, I will have to say we have two of the most self-deprecating characters coming to blows with each other. Not coming to blows, but having a conversation with each other at this point. We have Jon, who has never seen himself as a king, who knows the weight of this sword, knows the power of this sword, and has never felt like it is his.
Who cares?
But you have to understand that's who Jon is.
I
As
know.
a character, he has never felt like this sword is his because he's, not that he's known that, Jorah's around, but J.R. Mormont did talk about him, and so maybe Jon has never really felt like it's his sword, and he needed to have Jorah say, no, I forfeited the right to this sword when I left. It's yours, you dummy. It's always been yours. Stop.
That's the thing, is that he's a dummy.
He is a
Jon
dummy.
is so dumb.
There's a point when Jon hears the footfalls of the whites that are all about to come kill them, where he has the moment of realization that he messed up. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, this was the dumbest idea I have ever.
I made a mistake.
And then he sends Gendry away because he's like, literally the only way I can survive this is if Dany shows up.
Yep.
We'll get to that though. We're jumping ahead a lot.
Sorry.
In this episode. It's okay. It was a lot. Not like a lot happened, but in such confined spaces.
Yes.
Jamie and Cersei weren't even in this episode.
No, they weren't, which is fine with me.
Yeah, it's just slow. But sort of another cute little conversation that happens is Beric and Jon discuss Ned a little bit. There's a lot of Ned talk in this episode. Sansa and Arya have a conversation about Ned. And then it shifts to them talking about the Lord of Light and how Jon does not believe in the Lord of Light.
Right.
And how Beric does. And Jon is saying, basically, how can I believe in a God that has never really shown me what I'm supposed to be here for or what to fight for? And Beric says, that's not the point. You and I are soldiers. We fight for life because death is the enemy.
Yeah.
And I think that's putting it out as, bluntly as you can, death is the enemy. Anybody that takes a living breath, we are on the same side as them. Yeah. The war is bigger than the Lannisters versus the Starks versus the Targaryens versus the Baratheons. It just is. It's everybody that's breathing versus everybody that's not breathing.
Right.
And I just think that and I also really enjoyed his line, you and I won't find much joy while we're here, but we can keep the others alive. And then Jon says, I am the shield that guards the realms of men. And you can sort of understand these two characters really understand. They have both been brought back by the Lord of Light for some reason, unknown. And they both are on the same side, fighting the good fight, fighting the actual fight. Yeah. And it's really telling. And I'm very glad that both of them survived, even though Beric now has no lifeline, Yeah. I'm very happy to see that they had that conversation, and you get to see that they are both fighting for the same thing. Beric and Jon see eye to eye very, very clearly. Yeah. And I really enjoyed that.
It was good, yeah. No, that was a good little scene. It was just cool to see like all of them talking because that whole group was so different. I mean, we saw that in the previous episode too, where they kind of like tensions kind of started to peak, and then as soon as they got beyond the wall, that kind of faded. Like even the Hound, going, Brienne of Tarth, like he could have freaked out and been like, she tried to kill me, like you idiot, don't fall for her. But they're beyond the wall. That stuff doesn't. They literally left those problems behind.
Yep.
In the realm of men.
My only wish is that Jorah had mentioned that Sam is the one that healed him. Because I think Jon would have really gotten a kick out of that. But maybe Sam is gonna show up in the next episode. Who the heck knows where Sam is heading to? We don't know. He's still on his way somewhere. Yeah. But switching to back in Winterfell, because that's where sort of these two this episode takes place in three distinct places. It goes beyond the wall, Dragonstone, and
for a second,
Eastwatch-ish. Like Eastwatch, Beyond the Wall, Dragonstone, and Winterfell. So we jump to Winterfell, where Arya and Sansa are sort of standing above the shooting range, right? And Arya tells a story about how she was young and Bran left his bow lying around, and she decided to shoot. and she only had one arrow, and she finally made a bullseye after hours and hours of practice, and someone was clapping on the balcony, and it was their father. Aww. And it was Ned Stark. And how he was clapping, even though they both knew that it was wrong. It wasn't that what she was doing was wrong, it was that the rules were wrong. And then she says, and you killed him. And you helped kill him. And now he's dead and you helped kill him. And the tone sort of shifts a little bit.
Yeah.
In that scene. What did you think of that?
Of
Arya sort of blaming Sansa for her father's death by showing the letter and showing the fact that she really...
I mean, I thought that whole scene was a bit cheap and not well planned out. I think that if we had any doubts that this was truly Arya and not anyone near no one, this spoke, volumes to that. Like, she's very much still herself, which is good.
Yes.
And which came in handy to know in later scenes. For sure.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yes, but, I mean, I thought that I had problems with that scene. I mean, we knew that tension was going to come up, but for me, the biggest problem, and I've talked to you about this before, is that as soon as she shows Sansa the note from the Raven, Sansa doesn't think to ask anything about Littlefinger. Mm-hmm. That drove me crazy, personally. Just because
he's clearly the villain.
He's clearly the villain. I mean, who else is gonna give that to her? She doesn't know to look for that. So that was my thing. I also thought that it was kind of frustrating to watch because these two siblings were so vastly different in the time of Ned. I mean, when Ned was around, these two could not have been more different. Ned talked about it. And they were kind of finding common ground that I feel like this scene just completely pulled out from underneath us, which was so upsetting.
Well, it sort of shows you where the lengths that Arya is willing to go, what she's willing to say to undermine Sansa. And then Sansa's willing absolutely to fire back. She tells Arya that she won the war for the North. Mm-hmm. It's on her that the Veil came. The Veil came for her. The Northern Lords bent the knee for her. But what you have to realize is, it's not a pissing contest.
Yeah.
Both of these girls, they're not the same. They have gone through such different things. And no, Arya would not have been able to go through what Sansa went through. And Sansa would not be able to go what Arya went through.
Right.
Because they're very different. They're vastly different girls. So it's very interesting that if Peter Baelish is sort of in there and messing with them and messing with their heads as he sort of tells Sansa to use Brienne, keep Brienne by your side and... Arya won't hurt you. It's very interesting to have them be pitted against each other because then when Sansa sends Brienne away after getting the letter from Cersei, my opinion sort of changed.
Yeah, explain that again because I want to hear that again.
Sansa gets a letter from Cersei asking her to come to King's Landing. Mm-hmm. After Peter Baelish has told her that she should keep Brienne around to keep herself safe from Arya. And Sansa elects, instead of going to King's Landing, to send Brienne in her stead. To send Brienne away. To send the person that Littlefinger told her to keep around away.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it tells me more about what Sansa and Arya are up to than I think anything else. And then Sansa and Arya have the conversation about the Game of Lies.
Yeah. I hope you're right. That's what's throwing me off from that theory is the conversation about the Game of Lies.
So let's dive into it, because then once we dive into that, we can leave it. We can leave the Stark girls, and we'll talk more about what's going on with Jon.
Oh, boy.
Arya's clearly baiting Sansa with the Game of Lies. Every word out of Arya's mouth is a lie. When she says that she would never serve a Lannister, she's lying. She was a cupbearer to Tywin. She's full. That's the point of the Game of Lies, is to push the other person to the end.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
My whole thing is, why did Arya give Sansa the dagger at the end? Why did Sansa end up with Littlefinger's dagger? And the only thing I can come up with is that the sisters are actually working together. That there's no wedge that's being driven, and that they're working together to undermine Littlefinger. Arya knows exactly what Littlefinger's up to. Sansa knows exactly what Littlefinger's up to, and by Sansa having that conversation with Littlefinger, telling him that she doesn't trust Arya anymore, that she doesn't know who she is. Mm-hmm. So that's just pushing Littlefinger more and more to believe that they don't trust each other.
Yeah.
And at the next episode, it's all going to come crashing down. Whatever his scheme is going to be laid out, and it's going to be thrown in his face, and he'll die.
Well, and the Game of Lies could have been just a test that Arya was giving to Sansa to see, like, okay, can we pull this off together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very clear that both of these girls are much stronger.
Oh, for sure.
Than they were even last season, and they have not seen each other since season 1. They don't. I mean, Arya saw Sansa at Ned's beheading. She knows that Sansa was screaming and begging them to stop. She's not gonna. Why would she throw that in her sister's face unless she had warned her? Hey, by the way, I'm gonna put you through some stuff.
Right.
But it's all for the sake of Littlefinger finding out. Littlefinger hearing it. Yeah. Right. They didn't have those conversations in hushed tones. You know,
yeah, that's
no,
very true.
They had that conversation in public, in a room with a door open. There's no...
That's a very good point, yeah.
I think they're working together, and I think it's all going to come out next episode.
You know, I really hope that's it, because that would be, first of all, awesome. And second of all, like, if the showrunners and the writers really didn't give the girls more credit than, you know, just... one of them falling for, like, the other being, like... or one of them falling for Littlefinger's trick and his own trap, then that really would speak volumes to the writers and the quality of the show. Because... so I really, really hope that there's something deeper going on. And
it would just mean that neither of the girls have learned anything. If they can both fall into Littlefinger's trap again, then all that they have been through is for naught. Both of these girls need to come out on top.
Yeah, and it wouldn't make sense.
No, it would not make sense in either of their personalities, in either of the way that they are. Sansa's been playing the game for how many years now? And Arya's not an idiot. She was trained by the Faceless Men. I mean, she's a member of the House of Black and White. Yeah. God, that girl can do anything. She snuck into the twins and murdered an entire family, and no one knows it was her.
Yeah. Like, well, Sansa probably does now. She found his face.
Yeah. But I'm saying she is capable of so much.
For sure.
I don't think that she's going to kill Sansa and wear her face.
Oh, no, I don't think so either.
I just don't see that coming. And if that happens, I'm going to be really sad.
I will too. I can't imagine that would happen. I will also say, though, that I believe in an earlier episode, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I said that Sansa should be the one to kill Littlefinger. And now she has the knife. So I'm just going to...
It's all...
mix that into the pot real quick, into the chowder.
Pieces are all coming together.
It's all coming together. Is that the Night's King?
Yes, winter is coming.
Do you feel a chill in the air?
What is that smell?
Who left the door open?
So, we've discussed the Starks at length. I guess my only thing was, where was Bran during this whole episode? If the Stark sisters are having all these conversations, Bran knows what's going on. I don't know why they're not talking to him more.
Where is Bran at all in this season? I'm sorry, like...
You put him in 2 episodes and then he's just no longer around.
I mean, I do get it. Like, I don't understand what they... Okay. This whole show would end very quickly if they had him just go, hey, by the way, here's everything that happened. Like, this is just all it. So, like, clearly, I think he knows everything that there is to possibly know, and he's just not ditching it out. For whatever his own reasons are, I personally think he's the Night's King. That's my theory. I saw that on Twitter. I see the face you're making. You disapprove so deeply. You look like my mom. I know, you don't like this theory.
I can't even explain why I don't like it. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I just have so many issues with what they've done with the Night's King already. If they make Bran the Night's King, I give up.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry that I just posed a theory that might make you give up on Game of Thrones. Now I hope that's not it, but just for your sake.
So please explain to me why you think Bran is the Night's King, and I will try and come up with my opinions as to why I disagree.
Okay, this sounds great.
Okay.
This sounds so good. Without my virtual notes. I literally discovered this theory, like, as I was walking to your building. So I have not had a lot of time to research it, and I will get deeper into it in future recordings. This whole theory was posed to me on Twitter, which is really where all great information comes from in this world. So that's where that came from. And then the Nerdist also wrote about it, and I do love the Nerdist, so I trust them. I have a kind of shallow reason for believing it, and then some evidence to support that maybe there's something more going on. The shallow reasons are that Bran and the Night's King have a very similar outfit, so it might just be the same one. Who knows?
Same
Honestly,
costume director? Nah, same outfit.
It could be the same outfit though, because there are some side-by-side images that look strikingly similar, and actually their faces do look strikingly similar in a strange way when you compare the two. So, I mean, that's the shallow reason. The not so shallow reason is, if you look back at whenever Bran is in these visions where he can kind of interact with the past, he can interact with the past and affect it, but the Night's King seems to be the only one who is very aware of him being there. Mm-hmm. Which I personally think is really interesting, and it's something that's been peaked but not explained. And I get it. I mean, the Night's King is magical. Like, he's a walking ice zombie man. Like, he's not magical.
He can reanimate dragons.
And the dead in general. Like, there's some stuff going on there. But at the same time, I do think it's interesting that he always knows when Bran is around. And a lot of these theories say that that's because they are the same. When you look at the possibility of the Mad King going mad because of Bran, one of the things he's saying is burn them all, referring to the White Walkers, perhaps. Maybe he's trying to warn them further.
Oh, well, I like that.
Ahaha.
I like that. Because the Mad King, clearly we don't know why he went mad.
Yes.
And I'm super full behind the theory that it's all Bran's fault.
Same.
That everything up until this point, that he drove the Mad King mad, all of that. I guess for me, Bran being the Night's King would sort of cheapen Bran as a character, as the Three-Eyed Raven. I want Bran to be his own separate entity, and the Night's King to be his only foil. There is no one else that can combat Bran in terms of power except for the Night's King.
That's fair.
To have them be the same person, but just different, displaced in time, I guess we've never seen that before.
It's a little Doctor Who.
It's very Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And if they want to do that, if they want to go the sci-fi route, that's something that
They've already gone the sci-fi route.
But if they want to further it, all they need
Yeah.
to do is throw in a TARDIS and basically we'll be there. But
that's not what the TARDIS sounds like. I'm so sorry.
I'm not even gonna try. Is that it? No.
We both, between the two of us, we got to something.
Yeah. Even Doctor Who fans over here.
Sorry.
But I really am interested to dive into the theory maybe next week a little bit more, flesh it out.
So am I.
But until then, instead of that, when we'll get there.
Instead of that,
we go back to Beyond the Wall. We're gonna switch gears a little bit to Beyond the Wall, where our team is met with their first... Our squad is met with their first major foe in the form of a...
zombie polar bear.
Ice zombie polar bear.
Ice zombie polar bear.
Hey, zombie polar bear, ice zombie polar bear. They're like, do bears have blue eyes? No. What do you think? What do you think is gonna happen?
This is my whole thing. It's like, why are they acting like they've never seen the undead before? They've seen it so many times.
Do polar bears have blue eyes? What do you think?
And can you see their bones on the reg? No, you absolutely cannot.
No. So the ice polar zombie bears,
the zombears,
attack. Nameless Brotherhood members and actually Thoros take the brunt of the attack. And it's pretty brutal. The Hound can't quite take all of the flame action and watches on as Thoros is maimed by one of the bears. He tries as best he can to get the bear off, but it bites him. Luckily, the other lads jump to task pretty quickly, I would argue, and take said bear down. Barrack cauterizes Thoros' wound.
Barrack.
Yes. bear it.
Good.
He cauterizes Thoros' wound, and the team is off again.
Yes.
Thoros being super injured.
Yeah.
But still walking.
Still walking.
Shockingly.
Whiskey.
Whatever he's drinking. I mean, I
Magical
want
power
some
juice.
of that. Whatever he's drinking, like, seriously.
Yes.
Give me some. So another scene that I really loved happens right after this, and it's Jorah and Thoros have a conversation about the breach of Pike. And Jorah basically tells Thoros that watching him enter the breach with his flaming sword he was the bravest man that Jorah had ever seen. And Thoros says, yeah, maybe the drunkest. Yeah. And it was very interesting to sort of put that into perspective. And while Jorah is telling him this story, he's like, you know, tightening Thoros' armor up and making sure that he's still standing. And Thoros is drinking a lot. And you can tell that he's not doing well. And for Jorah to sort of see his hero crumble a little bit.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, once again, Ian Glenn, just so good. Such a good actor. I thank you for letting him survive the grayscale.
Seriously.
Thank you for letting him survive this massacre nonsense, whatever it was. I'm just so grateful that Jorah has survived this whole season. He's always had a target on his back.
Hopefully this whole season.
Yes,
we
you're
don't
right.
know.
You're right. There's still one more episode, and if he dies, I'm gonna...
Let's not even go there yet. But it's gonna be a well-acted death scene.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
At the least.
I just don't think that they would give him grayscale only to kill him, as someone pointed out to me. That would just be dumb.
Yeah,
don't do that. Don't waste our time with that and then kill him off.
That's a fair point.
So basically, they come upon the mountain shaped like an arrowhead that the Hound has seen in his vision, and see down yonder a daddy White Walker and his baby whites.
His little baby whites.
He's the daddy, and they're his babies. And it takes off from there. The White Walker comes upon a camp, perhaps set by Benjen. We're not really sure where the camp shows up and who made it. And Jon and posse attack.
Yes. It's the Walking Dead Winter Edition.
Yep. Kill the White Walker and every single white except for one.
Except for the one convenient plot device white. That's the species of White Walker they don't tell you about much, is the convenient plot device white.
Unbelievable. I was like,
my God.
Excuse me? So they all collapse except for the one that they're all surrounding.
One white to rule them all.
For some reason, that one's special.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part is when Jorah, like, later in the episode, he goes, when you killed the White Walker, almost all of them died. And you're like, yeah, except for the one.
They mostly come at night. Mostly.
They mostly.
Mostly.
Not always.
Not always. This one was my favorite.
I don't know. It was ridiculous.
Oh, I know why that might have been.
Oh.
Maybe he wasn't the White Walker who turned him.
One?
Yeah, why not? I mean, well, okay, that was dumb. It shouldn't have been the one.
There should have been two, and then they kill one.
It should have been like a convenient trio of
there
three.
should have been like at least three, but they killed them all.
True.
All of them drop except for one. Tormund punches it, and it lets out a scream that like they ain't not heard before.
Terrifying. That's not.
It was a loud scream. Jon then hears the distant rumbling of the footfalls of the whites, and basically panics. This is when he realizes. This is the moment where he's like, oh dear God, what have I done? Sizes up his team, and looks at Gendry and is like, you're the youngest, you're the fastest. Go. And Gendry's like, why me? And he's like, you're the fastest. And Gendry's like, yeah, I am. And he goes.
We never tested that theory, but all right.
Let's go. And Gendry takes off to Eastwatch because Jon basically realizes the gravity of the situation that he has put them in.
Which he didn't before.
Somehow he did not realize this beforehand, that they are about to fight thousands.
Yeah. An army.
7 people, basically, versus an army of the undead.
Fair.
And so Gendry takes off, and the others take off, and find, luckily, an island in the middle of a frozen lake.
Pond, yeah.
That they all cross, but the whites can't because they're too heavy for it and start falling in.
Which I also have questions about. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
You can see my hands.
I see your hand. Your hand of questioning is on full alert.
it's really, really wondering.
It is.
Like, what?
Why?
That's really lucky that happened that way.
Especially because we're meatbag people, and the White Walkers and their little army of skellies are
exactly
empty of
that.
meat.
They have sans meat.
They're sans meat.
Yeah.
They're the lightest of the light. The whites are they're light white. They're light whites. Wait, I want to...
No.
That was a bad one. Well,
okay. Anyway, so the lightweights.
oh boy.
Okay, so the lightweights are not light enough. And they basically surround the island
So quickly.
and John and Posy are forced to wait. Okay.
Oh, this is bad.
I
Okay.
need some water.
Okay. Oh god, I'm out of wine. That explains it.
Yeah, so they're surrounded by lightweights as the Night's King and his posse look on.
Yes. Seemingly unable to cross, so they're just gonna wait it out.
They're just gonna wait it out, because who knows how much time is gonna pass between now and when Daenerys shows up. We know it's about a day. I watched it again and I got the timeline, but I still questionable.
Well, yeah, because it's just a mess.
So basically they wait a lot. There's a lot of waiting. Dany and Tyrion have a conversation while they're waiting. Tyrion basically they're talking about the future of her house and what's going to happen after she dies and who's going to sit on the throne and Tyrion's allegiances and they sort of butt heads quite a bit.
They do.
Tyrion mentions, all of these men that you just said. They talk about Dario, who hasn't been around in 2 seasons.
Yeah, he was with Gendry rowing, because, he just straight up disappeared.
Does not matter anymore.
There was a line that Tyrion had where he pointed something out, and you're going to remember before I do, because you rewatched it today, but I want to say it was when he said, I think it was when he said, you want to break the wheel. Mm-hmm. That's why I decided to work with you. What you're doing right now is more of the same. Which I think he did say earlier, too, because there was a moment where he said something and both of us went, yes, thank you for finally saying it.
Yeah, well, what he says is basically that you can't win a war with deceit and murder.
Right.
Fear makes power brittle.
Right.
And
it's more of the same. And her father.
Right. And Aegon built the wheel that Daenerys wants to break. And he basically tells her that all of these impulsive decisions that she's making is very hard. It makes it hard for him to see eye to eye with her. He believes in Daenerys, but he reminds her that she needs to ensure that her vision is continued.
Right. And I love that he breaks down, like, she said, to kill, the Tullys that I killed, that wasn't an impulse. He goes,
Tarleys.
Tarleys. Oh, not Tullys. I'm so sorry.
Jesus.
I'm so sorry.
Come on now, all right?
I was just...
I mean, look, House Tully is not doing great.
I'm so sorry.
But there's still one left.
You're right. It's okay. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. We're good.
Edmure Strong.
Edmure Strong. It's fine. And maybe Lady Stoneheart. We don't know.
Fingers crossed, baby. Still waiting on it. There's got to be some stuff that goes down in the north. Do you like the sound of my water bottle?
Lovely. I love when he brings up, or she says that wasn't an impulse decision to, burn the 2 Tarleys that I burnt. And he said, here are the other 3 ways that could have gone.
Yes.
And that's what he is supposed to do, is the hand of the king. And I actually kind of, or queen, God, man, this is a rough day. I kind of loved actually that they butt heads in this scene.
Me too. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's very telling. It's them trying to work through their issues as opposed to just talking behind each other's back about it.
Yes, absolutely. And B, it would have been way too easy if she had just said, you know what, you're right. Like, that would have been completely not the Daenerys that we know, and not the Daenerys that, like, still needs to grow quite a bit. And we'll talk about this later, but she has.
She absolutely has. This episode was a very strong and an important episode for Dany in terms of growth. She sort of yells at Tyrion a little bit for siding with his family, and he goes, "Of course I'm going to side with my family. It's important to see the enemy's side."
Yes.
Which she has not done at all. All she says is, "This is what the enemy says about me."
Well, and that's the problem that we talked about last episode, too, is kind of a more global viewpoint versus seeing things in black and white.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and now I think that she's sort of starting to see the grayscale.
You did it.
No.
You did it.
No.
It happened.
No. Didn't mean to do it. You know what I mean.
You know what else? That was a good one.
It was a really good one.
It was a really good one.
I'll give myself pats on the back for that one.
It was a good one.
It was an accident. Dany ends up not listening to Tyrion.
Right.
She gets the raven. Gendry makes it to the wall.
Yes. Gendry makes it.
He collapses, but is able to say, "Ravens.
Ravens.
We need ravens."
Yes.
And he gets Davos to send the magical apparating ravens.
Yeah. That teleportation is a thing in this show, and also just big hulking ravens with giant wings, because there's nothing that makes sense about these ravens in this show.
Nothing. I mean, where are they getting their ravens?
The Bruce Banner's lab? Like, Jesus.
Really, though. Really,
They're robot ravens with freaking machine motors.
Impossible ravens. They are jacked up ravens.
The jacked up, roided out ravens.
They're roided out ravens.
They're
That's
roided.
what it is. Dany gets a raven from Eastwatch by the Sea, straps on her winter wear, which she looked amazing. Okay.
Yes.
But also, girl, you're going to need more than that.
Yeah, that didn't make sense. This is the first time we've seen her wear, like, something close to what she'd worn when she was in the desert. And I'm like, you're going into the winter time.
Literally, you've never been somewhere as cold as this before.
No, but the dress was white, though, so it matched the environment.
But she takes her babies to go save Jon.
Yeah.
Very much against Tyrion's wishes.
Yes.
He says, if you die, we're boned.
We've seen him plead with her twice in 2 episodes.
Yes, and she has not listened to him either time. She says, I didn't listen to you. I listened to you the last 2 times, and I lost Dorne, and I lost Highgarden.
Yeah.
She's not... Or I lost Casterly Rock, and I lost Highgarden. I'm not about to listen to you again. Which is fair.
Fair enough. Yeah,
but
it's fair enough.
She's about to learn...
Real hard.
her lesson.
Real hard.
Back across the wall... The Hound lobs a few rocks at the Whites standing on the shore, and one sort of scatters its way across the ice, and the Whites realize, maybe this is a little bit thicker than I thought. Apparently Whites can... that hive mentality thing is really important here.
Even though they watched a group of hulking humans walk across the ice, the little stone is really what did it.
That's the kicker.
They're
That's the kicker
but
right
a
there.
stone's throw can get across.
And then the fighting starts.
Then it gets really real, really fast.
and
Like
it-
hard home real, but
goes and freaking goes some more.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this was the most stressful fight I have ever watched.
Yes.
In Game of Thrones. I actually had to turn away at one point.
This is true. I can vouch for that.
You can. It was during Tormund's scene when Tormund got sort of nailed by all of the Whites and starts getting dragged toward the water. I couldn't handle it, dude. That was too much for me.
That was a lot. And it's scary it's actually scary how smart how they use their environment in a really smart way. And they're very, that's scary. They're not just mindless drones.
And you learn that the Whites can swim.
Yeah, which is great. Makes no sense, but
that
I
really
don't
helps
care.
for later on in the episode when they have to go get a dragon from the bottom of the lake.
With, the giant...
But, yeah, it was... I think it was the most stressful fight because you knew how overwhelmed the characters were. There was no way out except for Danny showing up and saving the day. There was nothing else that could have happened.
Literally, that was their only hope. There was nothing else that could have... There was nothing else.
No. And just when it gets really, really bad, the team is backed up basically at a ledge of the island, and there are whites coming on from either side, and it sort of slows down, and you can hear the breaths of each character, and they look at each other, and it's like they're all saying goodbye to one another. Like, they have these moments of...
Yes, and there was a moment actually in John's eyes that was very kind of reminiscent of the Battle of the Bastards, when he's on the ground and kind of has this look of, oh my God, this is it. I mean, which, good and bad. I mean, good because that was powerful to, see those... Because there were points in this episode where I was like, I genuinely don't know if John's getting out of this. Yeah. Like, there were actually... Yeah. And, I mean, that could have happened. We're at the point where it's kind of like anything can happen.
Absolutely. It's anything can go and anyone can go. And
yes.
To mention, Thoros does go in his sleep.
May he rest in peace.
Before the fight happens.
And now his watch has ended.
And now his watch and plot has ended.
Well, his plot.
But it was sort of beautiful to have them have that moment of peace where they get to say goodbye to Thoros. They burn his body. And the town says it's one of the most peaceful ways you can go is in your sleep. And then the fighting starts. And it's all sort of lost, and it's sort of Beric is harshly reminded that he doesn't have a lifeline anymore, that this is his last life, and he's like, now I'm ready for it. And then they're ready. It really does seem like they're raring to go. Yeah. And then Danny shows up.
And then Danny's music starts, dragons fly in.
And the whites get wrecked.
And for a while.
For a second.
The
Night's King lets it go on for a second. He's like, yeah, sure, you can have this. I can make more.
Can we talk about how this scene was essentially exactly the same as the battle a couple episodes ago, except wintertime?
Yeah, no, it was exactly the same.
It was the exact same scene.
Way to go, writers.
Good job.
Not lazy at all.
Real good. It's like repainting a toy.
Yeah.
Basically. It's like, no, it's totally a different one. It's totally different.
Actually, you can't just slap another skin on Skyrim and call it Fallout. It doesn't work that way.
That's good.
So... You think it's all going to be okay for a hot sec. Everybody is getting loaded onto Drogon's back, except for Jon, who is down, fending off whites as best as he can. When the Night's King takes one of 3 javelins and lobs it at Viserion, who is busy flaming up whites. It hits him, and he instantly crashes to the ground, bloody, crashes into the lake, and slides down into the depths.
It was one of the most horrific deaths I've seen in this show. I mean, we've seen a lot in this show. I mean, we saw the whole little town that was all a torture town. I forget what it's called. Keep wanting to call it Hardhome. It's not Hardhome.
Harrenhal?
Yes, that place. That was awful to just see in general. Awful. I literally can't ever not think about that. Yeah. We've seen a lot in the show.
All of Arya's murders.
All of Arya's, even those I'm like, I'm alright with it.
But this was real to people. See how much I think that he bled.
That was horrific. But that's what bothered me so much is the amount he bled, and like just the fact that like that kind of he like was engulfed in his own flames. Yeah. And it's like, meanwhile, his brother is watching.
Drogon screams,
and Danny's watching her child
and Rhaegal
die.
Takes off.
Yeah, Rhaegal's
like, no.
I thought she only took 2 of them.
No, she took them all.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Rhaegal very quickly dips after Viserion
Rhaegal
takes
pieces.
It. He's like, nah, dog.
Not me.
Because Drogon would too, but he's got people on his back.
Right, he's got a little job to do.
So yeah, I think that this was Daenerys' reaction. I really have to give props to Emilia Clarke. Mm-hmm. Great job.
Amazing.
I felt it. It was hard to watch that. And to sort of, we all knew it was coming, but to have her experience it in such a flash, and for her to know the gravity of who they're fighting, the actual monster that he is and what he's capable of. The dude had 3 javelins for 3 dragons.
Right, and here's what happened to her in that scene. She's seeing something completely unbelievable that she thought was a myth, and that was completely like that was not a real thing. She's seeing her child die. She's understanding that not only is she not impervious and she's not indestructible, neither are her dragons, and she just watched one of them destroyed in front of her. So
it was nothing.
Like it was nothing. And I mean, she saw when they had the land battle, like, Drogon got hurt. This was way more precise, way more effective. And
almost instant.
And, like, it was one of those things where I knew a dragon was going to die in this episode. Didn't know the Night's King had the capability to do that.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that the Night's King would have capability. It just begs the question, first of all, how powerful really is he? And who is he? How did he know that she had 3 dragons? How did...
Bran. He's
Oh, my God. Stop. It's not Bran. I mean, it could be Bran. But no, he's far more powerful than anybody has been led to believe. He can touch Bran in Bran's vision. He can even snap Bran out of his own visions. Okay? He killed the 3-eyed raven. Clearly, the Night's King is the all-powerful warg. We just don't know to what extent and where he got his powers from.
Right. No, exactly. And this episode was super important because we knew he was a foe before who was, like, gonna put up a fight. This is next level, and now he has a Hulk.
He does. And he planned all of this. You know he planned. He had, like I said, he had 3 javelins. He knew this was gonna happen. He was waiting. He was waiting for this moment.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's Bran, if he's Bran, fine. I just think that he is the ultimate foe and that it will take a long time. It will take an entire season for him to die.
Yeah.
So... Picking back up with our heroes.
Yes.
Almost everybody is loaded on to Drogon except for Jon. They have just seen Viserion succumb to the depths of the icy water, and Jon is then slammed into the water by a bunch of other whites. And Daenerys is forced to take off because the Night's King is prepping another javelin. So she takes off and leaves Jon behind as he drowns.
Yeah.
Or so we think.
Only
it turns out that he doesn't. Somehow he's been saved, either by another god or by the Red God again. It's either by the drowned god or by the Red God, we're not sure.
Guy can't die.
Jon can't die. And instead of, like, faking his own death and just pretending to be dead until all of the whites disappear and leave, he tries to walk away.
Listen. This is Jon we're talking about. This is Jon.
You're right.
Jon, the beautiful, beautiful dummy.
The idiot.
Jon the fool.
Jon the fool is really, that's all you need.
I really hope that they made a Game of Thrones tarot
You know
card
nothing,
set.
Jon Snow.
You know nothing, Jon Snow. He really doesn't. She was very right. He
Ygritte,
does not know anything.
Nailed it. Ygritte nailed that on the head.
Nailed it. She was like,
my God.
You know nothing, but you got a good body.
And you know what? We got to see it again in this episode, and I'm very appreciative of his 6-pack. Thank you.
It was beautiful.
So what happens? Jon gets bum rushed by some whites. He's prepared to fight again when a hooded figure on a horse
comes out
with some whipping fiery whips shows up to save the day. Who is it? None other than
the most loyal uncle in this entire world.
Benjen Stark shows up to save the day. I have so many questions, problems, overall disappointments with the execution of this last bit. So much more could have happened with this. Benjen Stark did not need to show up and give his life away. And he's not cold hands. I'm sorry. I can't. Look, okay. They have been waffling so much on whether or not Benjen Stark is cold hands.
We theorized about this several seasons ago. We were like, I wonder if he will come back as cold hands. Like, and then he came back and he saved Bran, and we were like, oh, I guess he's not cold hands.
They never had it mentioned. They never said it, not once. And they never said it again in this episode until beyond the episode.
And there's a footnote in the books.
Well, in the books, I mean, look, I can't compare the books to the show anymore.
Okay, that's fair.
Look, in the books, Benjen is not cold hands. In the books, Cold Hands is a vehicle through which the 3-eyed raven is able to speak and see, similar to how Bran can warg into Hodor, I think. That's what my personal opinion is on
Seems
who
right.
Cold Hands is. What happened to Benjen Stark, I have no idea. What happened to Benjen Stark in the show, he's saved by the Children of the Forest after being attacked by a White Walker. They bring him back to life. It's never mentioned that he's Cold Hands. The white process is just stopped, and he is somehow able to keep his self.
Humanity,
His
yeah.
humanity. It's never once mentioned that he is Cold Hands.
Right.
He doesn't ride an elk. He's not surrounded by ravens. He doesn't have the... I mean, he has the blue hands. He's dead. But, like, Cold Hands never shows his face. It's, like, very fair. I probably wouldn't either if I were a dead dude.
Yeah.
I'm just, in the Beyond the episode, after
our
this
favorite.
episode, which I just should never watch. Like, I don't know why I do it to myself. Every single time I get angry, they not once said Benjen's name.
Yeah.
They only referred to him as Cold Hands.
That's freaking Cold Hands.
And I was like, I'm not going to get upset about this. I'm not going to get mad. I have 3 bruises on my leg from throwing myself down onto the ground after Benjen Stark showed up. And if it had been Benjen Stark, that would have been one thing. But the fact that they named him Cold Hands and just decided to give him that title after seasons of not... It's just very frustrating to me. And it seems like they're tying up loose ends that they didn't need to tie up. I didn't need Benjen Stark to come back. I didn't need Jon to see his uncle one last time and then lose him after not seeing him for years.
Like the end of the Titanic, there was room for both. There was room for both.
I mean, it could be argued that the horse wouldn't be able to handle it, and Jon is freezing cold and he needs to get to Eastwatch as fast as he can.
Yeah.
But the way what Benjen said, there's no time, that's where the kicker is. Because there was time. Get
was
on the
plenty.
horse. All he needed to say was, no, I'm not important. You go.
Just go.
Just go.
Just go.
Right?
Yeah,
I've
that's
already made my decision. I'm giving my life for you.
Right.
Go. Or he rode on the horse a little bit. Get somewhere and then, dip off or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we made it, Benjen. Uncle Benjen?
He's not here anymore.
Uncle Benjen?
Where'd he go? And then they're at Eastwatch. But
Yeah.
instead, Benjen succumbs to the Whites. Whether or not he actually dies, we don't know.
Yeah, he's come back before, so...
But whether or not the Three-Eyed Raven brings him back, I mean, clearly he was connected to the Three-Eyed Raven, and now the Three-Eyed Raven is dead, but it's Bran, so I'm not really sure. I just don't understand quite that, except for, like, the way I would have preferred it. Exactly. That's exactly what it was. The way I would have preferred it is, Jon almost drowns.
Mm-hmm.
He wakes up, he comes up, surfaces, far away, or whatever, hours later, and has to walk back to Eastwatch. But having Benjen show up, it makes me feel weird. How did he know?
Well, we did figure out how he might have known last night, which is the white screaming. Because that was a real loud.
Hive mentality.
Yes. But I still feel like the execution was terrible. Like, especially, like, I'm sorry, Jon's a dummy, but really, you didn't pretend to be dead for, like, 5 seconds? For, like, a minute?
You would have saved Benjen's life.
I would have even liked to see him maybe pass out in the water, wake up, Benjen's above him, fighting off the whites, and then he goes, what's going on? And Benjen goes, just go. And then it would have been too late because he would have already been surrounded.
That's it. Or Benjen pulls him out of the water.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, or like hours later, Benjen pulls him out and is like, the whites are gone. And then, they get to Jon and Benjen take...
That would have been nice.
It's not Game of Thrones, though.
Yeah, well.
A girl can dream. So Jon, thanks to Benjen, Jon arrives back at Eastwatch, barely alive.
Yes.
And they set sail for Dragonstone. Mm-hmm. Jon is lying in bed, half dead, and wakes up
and half naked.
Half naked and looking good, but also,
so good.
Got a lot of stab wounds. And he wakes up and he's like trying to adjust his eyes, and Dany's sitting there, and
just watching as any of us would.
Yeah, I mean, same.
True.
And Jon immediately apologizes to her, saying that if he could take everything back, he would. And Dany replies, she wouldn't have seen, and you have to see it to believe. Mm-hmm. And I think now that brings me to a theory that I read on the Reddit about when Daenerys says, "You have to see it to know," and basically this Redditor, I am very handsome, lays out 3 different meanings. So
that's the Redditor name, by the way, not just.
I am very handsome.
I mean, Carly. I know you're handsome. I know this.
But basically, he interprets Daenerys as "you have to see it to know" in 3 different ways. Mm-hmm. The most literal interpretation is that she's referring to the White Walkers and the army of the dead. She feels guilty for having prioritized her fight for the Iron Throne over the real war that is outstanding. Nobody has ever believed Jon when he said that the White Walkers are real, especially Dany. And now that she has seen it firsthand, she totally gets why Jon has been begging her this whole time to help. The second interpretation is that she's seen Jon's bravery firsthand. Davos has been busy hyping Jon up. Everybody sort of says, he's the king that we all chose, blah, blah, blah. She's watched Jon now fearlessly stay behind in attempts to stop the Night's King from killing Drogon, stop the Night's King from getting off any more attacks, knowing more than likely that it would be his death.
Right.
And it puts more into perspective into why he was named King of the North, right? Mm-hmm. He is still willing to lead his men into battle, even if the battle is already over before it begins. He doesn't care if he dies. She's able to sort of see that aspect and see him in battle and see what he's capable of.
For sure. And one thing to add to that, actually, because that was, I think, that one sentence was extremely loaded, and I really like that you found that on Reddit, because that completely puts a whole new depth to it. But I also think that her saying you have to see it to know also refers to her not being indestructible, and the risk too, because she not only did she see, myth proven basically, and everything he said was true, and oh my god, she understands the true fight now, but also she just saw what could happen to her dragons. Her whole facade, she looks more mature at the end of this episode. She looks like she's grown vastly because she's been humbled.
This is what we were expecting to see from Dany at the beginning of this season.
Right.
And now this is what Tyrion has been begging from Dany, basically.
Right. She's going to be able to listen now, I think.
It really puts it into perspective. And the Reddit user's final interpretation of the quote is in regards to Jon's stab wounds. And every time it's been brought up, Jon dismisses it. He tells her Davos just is spinning lies, and it really puts into perspective that they have both been reborn. Dany has been reborn from the flames. Jon has been reborn from the ice. He nearly drowns in a frozen lake and still manages to return to Eastwatch. At this point, he cannot die. And when Dany sort of sees those scars, she realizes that he's so humble. He didn't use his resurrection to sell himself as a leader.
Right.
He never said it. And because of that, he doesn't rely on the fact that he can't die.
Right.
Every victory for Dany has been an accomplishment to add to her title, right? Mm-hmm. To add to her name.
And she's relied on her dragons and relied on her name.
Exactly. But for Jon, he's only ever relied on himself, and he's never boasted about it. Mm-hmm. He's just Jon Snow.
This is Jon.
And that's where Davos. It really comes in. A true king's respect is earned, not taken. Yeah. And it's sort of like this beautiful, I think she's actually seeing Jon for what Jon stands for, finally. And I just think this Reddit user absolutely put it into perspective, or put it into words way better than I ever could, that now her eyes are opened to what she's capable of, what the Night's King is capable of, and who Jon is.
Yeah. I completely agree with that, and actually that kind of harkens back to one of her first lines in this season, which is when she first meets Jon. She says, "You know what kept me going? Faith. Not in any gods, not in myths and legends, in myself, in Daenerys Targaryen." Mm-hmm. And so I think she sees that in Jon, too, is that he's relied on himself and not what has been done for him, or not his own accomplishments to sell himself.
He calls her Dany.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time, since Viserys' dying breath, he says, "Dany, please." And those are his final words before he gets his crown of gold. She does not like that, so we know that Dany in the books is not Dany in the show, because she refers to herself as Dany in the books.
Right.
And Jon elects for my queen instead. He's seen what Daenerys is capable of, and he sees that her desire to defeat the Night's King is just as strong as his is, and that's cause enough for him to now bend the knee. Mm-hmm. He also understands that she's the only thing that can defeat him.
This was a humbling episode for both of them.
Agreed.
This shattered both of their stubbornness to cooperate with each other.
And you know what's going to shatter their stubbornness even more? When they find out that the Night's King has a dragon.
Well, and that they're related, but also there's also that which
true.
Bran
Bran, come on,
man.
He's really sitting on that. Like,
There's
I'm
one
waiting.
job right now.
One job, and it's to tell him. That's all you
it.
got to do.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. Final scene of the episode. What happens, Carly?
They freaking take a little trip to Home Depot, get a bunch of giant chains. Not sure where those came from, but we're just gonna.
It just goes back to the Night's King was prepared for this.
He was. Yeah.
He was ready. He was freaking ready.
He was ready. He knew this, and actually, I buy that. He knew this was gonna happen. They freaking drag this poor dead dragon out of the water. We have to relive him being dead.
Yep.
And then they turn him into a white flying dragon. A white flying dragon.
Yeah.
They make him Blue Eyes White Dragon. From Yu-Gi-Oh,
yeah,
but it's spelled W-I-G-H-T.
Oh my god. Basically, that's what it is.
But really though,
so what happens is the Night's King, all he has to do is touch it. All he has to do is touch Viserion, and Viserion comes back.
We knew that though.
To life. But it's just all it takes is a touch.
That's true, because Viserion, and it didn't even take more time because he's a dragon.
Nope,
it was very quick, yeah.
And it's really, it means that next season, because it's not going to happen this season, next season, Viserion will be back, and a foe that Dany has to fight.
A friend of mine brought up a good point, which is, how is Dany going to get her dragons to kill their sibling? Which I did not think of.
I think once Viserion is breathing fire at them, they're not going to have any issues. Oh, yeah. Oh.
I know. Dude, they have an ice dragon. That is like nightmare scenario.
Yeah, if he's an ice dragon, they're boned.
Oh yeah, they got to pull
boned.
the holy crap lever and fix this somehow.
So, is there anything else in this episode that you want to discuss that was touched upon?
This is just something I kind of noticed. Two things, actually. One quick gripe. Why, to prove to Dany that there's an army of White Walkers, didn't Jon say, let's just take a little fly over the wall? Let's just fly those dragons right over the wall, take a quick little skim, look over the landscape. I'll show you from above. Why did they have to capture a zombie? They didn't know it was going to work. They were screwed. Like, it was a terrible situation. And then we see her fly in on her dragons, and it's like, well, what? Why didn't they just kind of take a little trip over? I know it'd be convenient, but it would also be really smart, which Jon is not.
I think to maintain the element of surprise.
All right.
A little bit.
Okay.
Clearly that doesn't matter, and the Night's King knew they were coming, but I'm guessing it was to maintain that element of, oh yeah, we have dragons and you don't know.
Okay, that's fair. That makes sense. I don't really know what they would have done to prevent it, but yeah, okay, that's fair though. It's also just a dumb gripe, but I also do want to talk about the fact that a couple seasons ago, we had a friend, Kyle, be a guest on the show.
Good old Kyle Tremblay.
Good old Kyle Tremblay. You're awesome. He brought up a theory that blew both of our minds about the stone dragon within the walls of
the wall.
The wall. Yeah, pretty much. Sandwiched up in there. And back then, this theory seemed kind of nuts, but like in a good way that like we wish it would be viable. I don't really know that it's not a thing that could happen now, and I do kind of want to believe that the ice dragon that the Night's King now has kind of is this stone dragon a little bit. Like it kind of does resurrect like this idea of maybe there being a stone dragon. It's kind of cool too. The ice dragon that's now on the show is not just kind of a random element. The idea of an ice dragon has been teased a lot, actually, in the books and in the show. Technically, Jon is an ice dragon. He's a Stark and a Targaryen, so, ice and fire. In the companion book, A World of Ice and Fire, ice dragons are said to have come from the Shivering Sea and have pale blue crystal eyes and translucent wings, which is kind of interesting. Our good old boy Martin wrote a separate children's story, actually, decades before our Song of Ice and Fire, called The Ice Dragon, where an ice dragon defeats 3 fire dragons, which is kind of cool. And then Melisandre, finally, to kind of, there's not really like these are just kind of interesting facts about the ice dragon kind of being a bigger deal than just being really, really bad for our team of heroes. Melisandre does say in, I believe, season 2, as you said, so I'm quoting you on that.
I think it's season 2. It's either season 2 or season 3.
Sometime in the show, that only a king's blood can wake the stone dragon.
Season 3.
Yes. So that has been said. So I don't know if this indicates that maybe there is a stone dragon that could be awakened. I would freaking love that. That'd be amazing. Or if it's just kind of, maybe this
are
is
we talking
that stone
like
dragon. I don't know.
Stone dragon or ice dragon?
I don't know anymore. I kind of see a parallel between the two sort of now.
That the stone dragon that Mel is talking about is actually an ice dragon.
Either that, or maybe there is a stone dragon that Jon will have to resurrect to defeat this ice dragon.
That is
Who knows?
within the wall.
Yes, and this is kind of a, throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, but at the same time,
heck yeah.
I think it's kind of, I just like dragons and I like talking about them.
Hey, and the fact is, dragons aren't going anywhere in this show. Clearly, they're becoming they're even bigger players on the board than they have been initially.
Indeed.
And just because Dany now has 2 doesn't mean the other one isn't going to show up. Anyway, so... Yeah. Carly, what is your beard rating for Beyond the Wall?
My beard rating is Viserion's beard of scales, because he does kind of have one. This is for no other reason other than to just pay a little respect.
Mine is the same. Similar. Out of solidarity, I'm giving it a Thoros.
Oh, very nice.
He deserved better, but at least he died peacefully. Plus, he was underdeveloped, much like this episode was.
Oh, a nail on the head.
Yeah. So, next week's episode, the season finale of Game of Thrones.
The 79-minute season finale.
My God. Wow. Is called The Dragon and the Wolf.
Please just be referring to Jon. Or to his and Dany's teamwork and leadership
and
together.
Not a baby.
Nope. Please no. Way too much talk about babies in this episode, which we didn't talk about.
Because it's not necessary. We don't need to talk about it. It's just not going to happen, okay?
Agreed.
Jon and Dany aren't going to get together.
Agreed. No Janny.
No Janny. What's the Jorah and Dany ship? Javos?
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 Wait. Jormund?
Jormund?
Jorah and Dany would be Dora. Dora the Westerosi explorer.
Yeah. Anyway,
child.
We're gonna see finally characters meeting that have never met before. We're gonna get Cersei. We're gonna get Jon. We're gonna get Dany, the Hound, the Mountain, Clegane Bowl. Possibly.
Oh God, I hope. I have a death poll theory. I think Cersei's gonna bite it.
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah.
Please,
I'm done. I'm done with that whole plot.
I think we all are.
Mm-hmm.
I love, as much as I love the game, I think that clearly the showrunners don't really care about the game anymore. No. So let's just kill off the characters that are playing it, and let's have Sansa be on the throne and be done with it.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to next week, but I'm sort of ambivalent towards the season as a whole. So I'm more to the point, just ready for it to be over so I can see what next season has to bring.
Fair, yeah.
This episode was really hard for me in a lot of ways, and I'm hoping that next week's won't be as action-filled, will be a lot more like Eastwatch was.
Yes.
Because I really enjoyed Eastwatch as an episode. I thought it was one of the better ones, and this one was really hard for me. So my hope is that The Dragon and the Wolf my hope is that Beyond the Wall took all the action, and it will be mostly like how Game of Thrones does, with the penultimate episode being the crazy one, and then the finale being a little more slow,
right,
but a lot more sort of happening.
Right. No, I'm definitely in the same boat. I hope the next episode surprises us too a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Carly, where can the listeners find you?
The good listeners can find me on Twitter at Chillin555, CHILLYN 555. And you can find me on medium.com, and my handle there is at hi yes hello. So just good old hi yes and hello.
Good old 1-2 punch.
Good old 1-2-3 punch.
You can find me on Twitter at Commander Tully, one word. And please follow the podcast at Twitter at YGG Pod. I changed the handle, make it a little bit simpler.
Short
we'll
and
release
sweet.
another poll later in the week, hopefully when this episode goes up. We will also be live tweeting next week's episode. So
Yep.
Please tune in. But until then,
the night is dark.
but full of Davos. Even though this episode wasn't really.
That's okay. He had a part.
He had one line.
He had one line. One glorious, beautiful line.
What happened? Where was the rest of them?
What happened?